you see this, folks? Meet this non-binary drag queen, the U.S. Navy's newest digital ambassador for recruiting. Yep, the military continues prioritizing the DIE agenda, the diversity agenda, over military readiness. Let's bring in 2024 presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek, unbelievable that the military, our military, meanwhile, look, you have China, who builds military installations on the South China Sea. We have Russia, who's learning how to fight kinetic wars in case there's a World War III against us. North Korea sending intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach New York and L.A. Meanwhile, we have drag queens recruiting for our military. What is a future presidential, I don't know, what's a candidate say?
Pentagon. Because the real thing that's going on, Eric, is that General Milley will talk about white rage. Now they're riding the latest transgender obsession. Here's why, okay? The military is making up for its absence of mission and purpose over the last 20 years. They're blowing woke smoke to deflect accountability for that. I'm not going to let that happen. I think that comes from not the people on the ground. Most people who serve in the military care deeply about this country and are in it for good reasons. The managerial class at the Pentagon, the General Milleys of the world, they're the ones adopting these toxic ideologies. And then guess what, Eric? We have a 25% recruitment gap in the military just last year because young people don't want to serve in a country that either they're taught to hate or a country that's lost its way. So as Commander-in-Chief, that's my top job. I will set the military back on track, back on the mission of actually protecting Americans rather than advancing wokeism or transgenderism.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm just watching this. I'm thinking for every one or two drag person or drag sympathizing person that you get to come into your military that you recruit, you have probably 5 or 10 who go, I don't necessarily want to share a bunk next to that person. I mean, it's not racist or homophobic. It's just reality, no?
Well, there's also some hypocrisy in this, Eric, and I'll give you where my position is. You could call this even a position that years ago would have been progressive, to say that, you know what, if somebody's gay, openly gay, I still think they should be allowed to serve their country. But here's the mythology behind it, is we said that the sex of the person you're attracted to is hardwired on the day you're born. That's why it had to be protected as a civil right. Yet now they're saying your own biological sex or gender is completely fluid over the course of your life. Those two things can't make sense at the same time. So that justification for the don't ask, don't tell policy and overcoming it to allow gays to serve in the military was that it's hardwired at birth. Now they're completely throwing that justification out of the window by saying that your own biological sex is completely fluid. It doesn't make any sense. It's a cult-like belief system. And I also think this, Eric, I know you're not supposed to say this, but I'm just going to speak truth here. Transgenderism is more often than not a mental health condition. It is a mental health disorder if you think your gender does not match your biological sex. I think those people need treatment, need help, but I think the people we put on the front lines in our military need to be people who are in a psychologically stable position to actually protect this country. I'll just say that out loud because I think it deserves to be said.
No, you make a very, very good point. You wonder when the LGBTQ community throws out the T, the trans, because it kind of doesn't fit the rest of them.
Yep.
Vivek, Bud Light, the military, and Fox News seem to have all gone woke. Can you weigh in on Fox News for us?
Well, look, I just think that there's a trend across the country. A big part of this, as you know, is home turf for me, is public companies across America. They have the same groups of shareholders, right? BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. And take the Bud Light controversy, people wonder what's going on with Coca-Cola or any other corporation across the country. The real gist here is that it's a small group of financial actors, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, using your money, the money of everyday Americans, to advance agendas quietly in corporate America's boardrooms as shareholders that most Americans do not agree with, that most Americans also don't actually have their financial interests served by. That's the scam at the heart of this. I wrote this book long before I was running for president, Capitalist Punishment, which just came out earlier this month. But I think it's worth people knowing that they don't just vote every November. They vote every day with the dollars they invest in the market, with the choices they make as consumers. And I mean that as a positive message, because people should be empowered to know that we actually have more power than we recognize. As a consumer and as an investor in the economy, people are empowered long before they have to wait for November.
Vivek, you and I have talked about this a long time. The way to really stop this pendulum that's swinging so hard and so far left towards the diversity agenda is at the corporate boardroom level. And you thought, if you saw Coca-Cola, what happened a couple of years ago with the baseball game, and you watched Bud Light, you'd think Fox, their boardroom, would say, okay, enough is enough. We got to stop pandering to the diversity crowd. But Tucker, the axe swings, and Tucker gets his head cut off from Paul Ryan in the corporate board at Fox. Final thought.
Well, look, I respect Tucker. You know this, Eric. I think you probably know him, too. He's a great friend. He's one of these people in the conservative movement who actually thinks independently, who isn't shackled just by the GOP's party orthodoxy. I think that leaves big shoes to fill in the conservative movement's landscape. Frankly, I'm expecting folks like you to be, as you already are, unafraid and step into that void and thinking independently. I think that's what many conservatives are hungry for. I'm doing the same thing in the presidential field. I'm going to expect people like you to step up, and people across the board who really want to unshackle themselves from the GOP to actually just think about what it means to be an American. That's the gap that I think Tucker filled so well, and I think this leaves an opportunity for others to step up and fill his shoes.
You say the things that people think, and you say them what sometimes a lot of politicians aren't willing to say. We respect that. Speaking truth to power, Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.